Hey everybody, it's Chase with American Vintage Adventures again, and today we are here because we are under a month away from Halloween Horror Nights. Today is August the 8th when I am recording this, and so we're in that point where Halloween Horror Nights is just a few weeks or days away from kicking off instead of months and months down the road. So it is time to get excited. It is time to get hyped, and today I'm going to do something a little different. I am going to pretend that I am in charge of planning a Halloween Horror Nights, and I am going to give you my 10 dream houses for a Halloween Horror Nights event, along with my dream scare zones to go along with them, the complete theme, how I would do it if I were setting up Halloween Horror Nights, if I had all the power at Universal Studios to plan this. This is what I would do. So come with me on this Halloween Horror Nights adventure. I got you. Let's go do this.
The lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks is standing. There's all the fun and candy, so let the game begin.
Buy a ticket to the Universal Palace and let me usher you into an experience you will never, ever forget. Tickets, please.
So I am, in case you didn't know, I am actually a horror film writer, director, and filmmaker. I've made like 8 films in the past almost 15 years. I love Halloween. I'm a big 80s kid. I love nostalgia. I love movies. And we are going to take any written or unwritten rules about what can or can't be at Halloween Horror Nights and throw them out the window. I am going to keep with a base of 10 houses. I have my scare zones. I have my show. But mine is going to have an overall theme to all the houses and all of the scare zones. And what that is a blending of classic Halloween vibes, like the holiday of Halloween vibes, your pumpkins, your scarecrows, all that traditional eerie feelings that Halloween conjures up, with old school nostalgia, horror movies, and cinema, like the old slashback video type, like you went in the 80s and 90s and you rented a bunch of horror movies on the weekends and came home and watched them and scared yourselves and your friends and your siblings as you built up for Halloween. That feeling, all of that. So I'm combining Halloween and horror movies and nostalgia together to make an HHN legendary. And we are going to bring that all together. I am going to do that for you here. I'm excited just to talk about it. And I want to know what you think, because my lineup is epic. Let's get to it right now. All right, so first up, you see my pal Frank here. That's a pop art painting that I did. I like to take old school like magazines. I'll buy tons of old magazines, whether it's old Playboy, which has great advertisements and inserts, old Look magazines, Starlog, all that kind of stuff. And I'll take the ones that are damaged and pull out cool pages and put those on a canvas and glue them down and let them cure. And then I'll do a painting over the top of them. So I think most of these pages came from Playboy magazine and Starlog. And then I did classic Universal Frankenstein on top. So that's Frank hanging out over my shoulder. Got Ghostbusters watching him. Now let's watch what I am going to do, which is talk a lot with some awesome video over it. Without any further ado, let's get to number one house on my, now these aren't in any particular order, but this is just the first house up in my dream Halloween Horror Nights. And the first one up is The Lost Boys. Now, I'm an 80s kid. I'm a horror filmmaker. I love 80s horror. I think The Lost Boys lends itself perfectly to a house at HHN. I mean, the whole climactic sequence, like the last 15 minutes of the movie, takes place in a house. Like, basically, the vampires come in and the whole showdown with the Coreys and Jason Patrick and all their characters, it takes place inside their house. So it's room to room. Like, I always think about the one part where the one vampire that's pissed about killing Marco, and I can't remember all their names, but I remember Marco got killed first. He's chasing Corey Feldman and his brother through the house, and it takes them into the bathroom. But it's like room to room, and he jumps out from behind the door, and then the dog comes and jumps and knocks him into the holy water tub, and it's like this gruesome, cool kill. I mean, I could literally see all of that being in a HHN house, where you just go room to room. You're squaring off with the other vampires. You're seeing the whole movie unfold, the whole climactic sequence of the movie unfold. And maybe when it first starts and you come in, it could be one of those things where you're inside, but it feels like you're outside, and you could see like that sequence go down where they're trying to get Michael to feed the first time, and they attack the punk rock bikers at the bonfire. And then from there you go inside, maybe through the comic book shop, and then finally into the house for the climactic scene. So you basically just walk through the movie. I think it would be cool. And of course the whole thing has to end with two big punchlines, you know, the death by stereo scene. And then when Grandpa comes in at the end and, you know, kills the last vampire, and he says, the one thing I hate about Santa Clara, all the damn vampires. That would be your ending, just perfect. So I think a Lost Boys house would be just epic. I think that would be a great house for Halloween Horror Nights. Now, next up for my dream map here may cause some controversy, because people are going to say, oh, he's never going to let that happen. But a house that I absolutely am dying to see, so it has to go on my dream map, is Stephen King's It. Now, It is one of my favorite horror films and horror books ever. I really like the remake, but I still love the original, even though it was made for TV and they had to cut so much out. I think it did a great job of setting an eerie tone, the overall eerie feeling that something was wrong in Derry. They just couldn't do so much on TV in 1990. And then I like a lot about the remake. I honestly think there needs to be like some way that you combine certain aspects of both, and I think you'd have the perfect movie. But it spans generations. It's still super popular. It has been for a long time. You could totally do this as a house, because Pennywise comes through the drain. You could make it the house on Neibolt Street. I mean, where they, like, because in the book, they fight Pennywise inside that house and around that house a couple of times before the big fight when they are kids. So you could definitely do this as a house, make it the house on Neibolt Street. You could definitely throw in the scene when you first walk in, with water running, and, you know, like you could see the storm drain where Georgie got by it. But I just think it's such a huge property that people want to see. I want to see it. I would set it all in the house on Neibolt Street. That way you could get a bunch of different versions of Pennywise, so you wouldn't just have the clown. You could have all the other things he turned into, which, if you don't know from the book, he turned into a lot more things than just like a werewolf or a leper. So you could do a lot and set it in that house, and then it totally lends itself to a HHN house, and it's one that I would absolutely love to see. The next house on my list is one that's being brought back because I love it. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. The house was great when it was here last time at HHN, and that's Ghostbusters. I would totally bring back the Ghostbusters. I mean, talk about another one that spans generations. We'll forget about that bad blip one in the middle, but the original two films, and now the Ghostbusters Afterlife, and then the sequel they're doing to that with the original characters. It's so hot again and popular, and I mean, honestly, who doesn't know Ghostbusters? I mean, you could get a 10 or 12-year-old kid and they've probably heard that song now. So and they know the movie. So Ghostbusters, to me, you basically just do it like it did before. Walk through the movie. You could add part 2 with Vigo the Carpathian. You could add some of that in there too, and you just basically walk through the movie. It's cool. It encompasses that 80s and ghosts and vibe that you want at Halloween, like our first two, and I just think it's one that you would have to have in my dream map, in case you can't tell. Ghostbusters is definitely part of my dream HHN. Okay, my next one on the list is also going to give a little controversy. I'm staying with strictly IP houses here to start with, and this one I think definitely encompasses all of the movie and Halloween togetherness vibes that I want for my dream Halloween Horror Nights. It's super nostalgic. It's something that you already see in the Universal parks. I know it's going to be controversial because the minute I say it, people are going to be like, oh, that's for kids and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to explain why I disagree. But my next house is a Scooby-Doo house. And listen, like I said, I grew up in the 80s. Scooby-Doo had already been around a while then, but it just conjures up all of the, like my first taste of horror and Halloween and spookiness is Scooby-Doo. And if you really look at the monsters, now I'm not talking about making this necessarily a PG house. If you look at the monsters that Scooby Gang faced, and you think about Universal taking those monsters and making them realistic with their high quality of set design and movie magic with makeup and everything, like the Phantom and Minor 49er and all of the Black Knight, like all of these different, the Creeper, the ghosts that they faced, some of the most iconic ones, and you take them and make them real, I think you could make a very scary house that you go through as the Scooby Gang. That's what I would do with it. Of course, at the end, you would probably see the Scooby Gang, and I would actually have it where they are trying to unmask something and they can't unmask it, like in Scooby and the Zombie Island. I can't remember if that one was it or not, but they actually did come up on some real ghosts a few times. It wasn't just the mask off and you meddling kids. They did come up against some real ghosts, and in this house, I would make all the ghosts real, and the Scooby Gang is going to find that out, like you are the Scooby Gang finding it out as you go through the house, and I would make it a genuinely scary but fun house. So Scooby-Doo, I mean, you could have an awesome soundtrack, because if you don't know, like Scooby-Doo, if you didn't watch them all, they had these great chase montages in most of the cartoons. set to, you know, like classic rock style music. They had guests, like they had Kiss on there for an episode with their music. So you could have a rocking soundtrack. You could encounter all these ghosts, and it would be like you're running through one of their chase scenes from the cartoon, and you are the Scooby Gang. That's what I would do, and I would definitely do a ScoobyDoo house. It keeps bringing that together of traditional Halloween and old school horror and the movie TV aspect that I'm trying to bring together for this HHN. So Scooby-Doo would definitely be a house on my HHN, but it would be scary. It would not be a kitty house. All right, on to the next one. All right, so the next house on my list is another 80s movie IP, but it is something that is still unique to me, and it is still a hugely popular film, and that is a house based on the original Predator.
Predator. The hunt begins Friday, June 12th at theaters everywhere.
You might be saying, no, that's sci-fi. Well, to me, Predator is a rare movie that starts out as an action movie and then becomes a horror movie and then becomes a sci-fi, and then at the end it is a sci-fi action film. And it did that all together in one film. I know I'm getting like blown out over here by my computer screen. It did that all together in one film. And I think this would be a good opportunity to do one of those houses where you are, of course, inside a soundstage, but it feels like you're outside and you're going through the jungle, like you are, you know, one of that group that's trying to survive. The Predator is stalking you throughout the house. You see him take, you know, some of Arnold's crew along the way, and you see them killed, and you see the Predator, and he's jumping out at you, and you have to survive through the end to beat the Predator. And I just think it would be a very, very cool house. The amount of set design that they could do with that is just out of this world. And for me, it's another one bringing that movie magic of horror and Halloween together with the nostalgia and the overall movie and Halloween theme of our HHN. It's a classic film that is still popular. Predator house would definitely be on my list. All right, the next house on my list will kind of complete the just strictly IP houses, and it is based off a TV show that is wildly popular, was one of the most successful shows in the history of television, regardless of genre, and it lends itself perfectly to the horror, Halloween, a kicking soundtrack, movie magic, all that we're trying to get together in my HHN. And that is a house based on one of my favorite TV shows of all time, Supernatural. Now, if you're a Supernatural fan or not a Supernatural fan, you will still probably know that they face so many different types of super cool and legendary monsters throughout the 15 plus years that the show ran on television. It even spawned a recent spinoff, and they're trying to bring it back for a limited series on HBO or Amazon Prime. So it's the show that will just keep going and going and going. And there is so much you could do. First of all, the show centers off two brothers fighting demons and monsters. That's their hunters. That's what they call themselves. And it's full of classic cars, classic rock soundtrack. I mean, you talk about something that lends itself perfectly to HHN. The badass classic rock soundtrack you could have through this house
Montag lieben, glauben, globen.
All right. Carry on my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done.
Love this song.
Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more.
As you are meeting some of the, like maybe top 5 or 10 scariest monsters that they faced, whether it's their version of a vampire or a Rougarou or a Rawhead or I mean just anything, a ghoul. Like they faced any kind of monster you can think of and some that you can't. Leviathan. Like there is so much that could be done with this house, and while you're going through it, you would have that classic rock soundtrack that carried the TV show. You have all these, you know, yellow-eyed and black-eyed demon scare actors in the house. I mean, there is just absolutely so much that you could do. I would probably set this up as you're kind of following Sam and Dean to try to survive this house. Obviously, you wouldn't have a Sam and Dean scare actor that led you all the way through it, but they could pop up throughout and be like, you got to go this way or that, whatever, to get you. They're trying to guide you through the house. So you would see a Sam and Dean, and you would see like maybe the top 5 or 10 monsters that they encountered, and you would go through some of their famous scenes where they fought it, all kicking to this classic rock soundtrack. And, you know, at the end, you could maybe see Sam and Dean, and they've got the dead bodies of a bunch of these monsters, and you know, they, you know, say, let's go to work or whatever, and you're out or of the house. But I think it would be very, very cool house, and it encompasses everything that you want HHN to be about, and my HHN that is trying to merge Halloween, nostalgic horror movies, and that sort of movie magic vibe all together. So Supernatural would definitely be one of my houses. Okay, so now we are getting into more original houses, though there may be some IP content in some of those houses, but we are getting into the icons as well. And from here on, the houses are going to be an icon presents. Like, you know, you might turn on a movie and it'll say like Steven Spielberg presents, you know, Jaws or whatever, that kind of thing. So it's like an old school movie thing, like so-and-so presents this movie. Well, we're going to have icons presenting our houses as though they are movie entertainment.
Film is not just art. Film is power. Film is magic. And in the right hands, film is a weapon. Weapon. A weapon. Weapon.
So the next house on our list is a house called The Director Presents All Night Die-In Recut. So now we're getting the icons in, especially the ones that tie into movies and Halloween and HHN so much, because that's the theme I'm going for. And they are going to present their houses like almost like it's a film festival, except for it's their houses. And in the All Night Die-In recut instead of the final cut, so we're bringing this house back. You have the director icon. He's presenting this house. And once again, we are going to have Freddy and Jason in the house. But to me, they're going to add now the third icon of that era, which is Michael Myers. Now, we know we've had some amazing Halloween houses, but I want to see those three go at it through the use of some of their coolest kill scenes in their movies. I want them to be fighting over those legendary kills, and we are caught in the middle. And so it's going to be at the end each night, or at the end of the house, kind of like they did last year with the Mummy, Dracula, and the Wolfman. A different one of them is going to win each night. So they're going to go through those scenes. They're actually going to be fighting to take each other's best kills away. So we're going to see the most iconic kill scenes from some of each of their movies, but each one is going to invade the other, and it's going to be this ongoing fight through the film and through the house. And at the end, somebody different is going to win, and the other two are going to be dead and out. So it kind of steal a little bit from the Universal house last year and do that with this one. I mean, it's iconic. You're still bringing in those old school Halloween, nostalgic 80s, old school horror vibes. So we've got all that blending together. We're staying on our overarching theme for my HHN. And you've got 3 icons in there represented by an HHN icon. So All Night Die-In recut presented by the director is one of my HHN houses. Next up on my list is an original house with an icon that I like and that everybody, has heard of. Doesn't matter if you've ever been to HHN or not, you've heard of this icon. The next house on our list is Bloody Mary Presents Urban Legends.
Bloody Mary.
Bloody Mary comes alive only at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights.
And so you're going to have this icon all over this house. So whoever the icon is in these houses that they present, they're going to show up too. And Bloody Mary is going to have assembled some of the greatest urban legend creatures that you can imagine. So I'm talking in this house, you will have the Hook Man. You will have Bigfoot. You could have Chupacabra come back. You could have the Slender Man. So, and Bloody Mary herself. So you could go through this house experiencing all of these urban legends. So not Urban Legend the movie, but urban legends themselves presented by Bloody Mary. So this is an original house where you encounter some of the most famous urban legends of all time, which, are they all just legend? I don't know. But it continues my theme. So you have that nostalgia again. You have things that are very famous that everybody knows. They can go into movie land and they're associated with Halloween and horror. Brings all that together. And you've got an HHN icon presenting it. So that is my house. Bloody Mary Presents Urban Legends. All right, we are down to our final 2 houses. And the next house up is going to be a fun one because it's going to set up a battle between 2 icons. So the next house on the list is Jack Presents The Horrors of Halloween.
Did you miss me?
And what's going to happen in this house is the Pumpkin Lord, he's not gonna like it that Jack is trying to take over Halloween and the horrors of Halloween. So through this house, you will have all of the Halloween, urban legendy stuff, or traditional Halloween stuff. You'll see, candy with razors and stuff like that in it, and kid, people trick-or-treating or something. And you'll have cornfields with scarecrows and any kind of, they will work in all of your traditional Halloween imagery in twisted ways. But throughout the house, you're going to see Jack and the Pumpkin Lord fight each other. They are trying to outdo each other with Halloween sick and twisted pranks, and they are trying to win at each spot because Jack is trying to take Halloween, the horrors of Halloween, away and make it his. So this is a dueling icon house with basically traditional Halloween stuff caught in the middle of this war between these two. And again, you could do this where somebody different wins each time. To me, Jack is going to win this. If you wanted to change up the ending, you could have another multiple ending there, but you would have two very cool icons and the icon of icons for HHN presenting his house. You would pull all those Halloween vibes in as basically the setting for this fight and this back and forth twisted game to go down. And that Jack presents the horrors of Halloween. You could maybe even have the sign where he's crossed out like the Pumpkin Lord. You know, there's no Pumpkin Lord, no Pumpkin King here. Now it's Jack presents. So that is one of my original houses, and it pulls in two of the icons. And I think it encapsulates everything we're trying to do with my overarching theme here at this HHN. All right, so the final house before we get into the scare zones, which are going to tie into everything too. So they will really matter. My final house is a original house with some IP in it. And this one will be The Usher Presents Silver Screams 2.
Good evening, moviegoers, and welcome to the Universal Palace.
You've got the usher. So if you've noticed, we've got the usher, we've got the director. So anything that had to do with movies, any icon that had to do with movies, I definitely pulled back in for this HHN because that's sort of part of my overall theme here. And Silver Screams 2 will be a little different than the first one because it won't be like necessarily slasher film oriented. I'm thinking you take Screams the other way and you've got something that's scary and funny and fun. And I would like to see us go through a house that incorporates Creep Show, killer clowns from outer space, and like maybe Cabin in the Woods. So like these dark, twisted, and funny horror movies. So I mean, Creep Show is a huge thing to me. I actually made a movie called Creature Feature that Dread Central said that it reminded them, it was an homage to classics like Creep Show, which was a huge honor to me because I'm a huge Creep Show fan. So that movie had different monsters and things, and it was set into like a horror comic, just like Creep Show. So I would love to see Creep Show in the house. You could go through some of the pages of that horror comic movie, Creep Show, and they're set up as short stories already. And then killer clowns can get mixed in. That's fun. So you go through like a 3-part house, and one part would be like Cabin in the Woods, so you could see all these different monsters. You know, you'd see which monster are you getting. You could have the guys like spinning and whatever monster they get. I mean, it would be predetermined 3 or 4 different monsters. But you would get that monster that night in the Cabin in the Woods part of it. But so it's a little bit of an IP because you would have to have that IP, but it's also an original. You pull some original stuff in there too with the Usher and the Silver Screams Part 2 house. So it pulls everything in, that the Halloween vibes, the horror vibes, the nostalgia vibes, the movie magic of it all fits right in with HHN. And it would definitely be a house that I would go through multiple times and would love to see on my dream HHN map.
Tickets, please.
All right, let's talk scare zones, because to me, scare zones tie everything together. So for me, in my theme, the scare zones, let me make sure you can see, the scare zones play into that Halloween nostalgia, slashback video, old school horror movie, Halloween blend together vibe. And because of that, I have 6 scare zones instead of 5. And I'll do that by eliminating a lagoon show. We will have one show. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that show will be a nightmare fuel show, but I would have it changed to be Nightmare Cinema, where it's all, movie centered. My first scare zone will be in Hollywood, and I would like to bring back a version of the Horrorwood Drive-In. So in my Horrorwood Drive-In, it would feature all of the classic Universal movie monsters and their movies. So you would have like this big movie screen, and it would be showing all of the old clips from all of the old school Universal horror monsters. So Dracula, Wolfman, Frankenstein, Creature of the Black Lagoon, all of that. So it would feel very, I would maybe even set this one in like the 50s down through there. You would have just the classic monsters. So this is where we would tie in our classic Universal movie monsters, because then we could have them all. They could all be there to populate this scare zone, that 50s vibe, the drive-in vibe, old school Hollywood vibe, old school horror vibe, bringing together. So again, it is a part of a cohesive whole, and we would get the Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, all of them would be there. So that is my first scare zone. Now, if you continue around, my next one's probably going to be controversial, because I'm going to put a scare zone in Springfield. And what fits better than that in Springfield than the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror scare zone? I mean, say this could be a fun scare zone. It still stays on that nostalgia, horror movie, Halloween, TV show theme that we're bringing together. You already have Springfield there. It would be so easy to do a Treehouse of Horror scare zone over there. They've encountered so many different monsters and things over the time. I would probably go back to like maybe the first 6 or 7, maybe to 10 Treehouse of Horrors to bring stuff in, and just do a Simpsons scare zone, Treehouse of Horror style over there in Springfield. You already got most of your decorations up. Now just make it Treehouse of Horror oriented, and you have the perfect scare zone through there that ties in beautifully to this HHN.
I hate Halloween.
If you continue on around, I would then do in the San Francisco area, I would do a Sleepy Hollow. So I would make the old school Sleepy Hollow, that whole creep vibe, the dark and foggy. You could put, fake black tree. Look, they have great set design. It can be done. And of course, you would have the Headless Horseman. You would have this very period piece going along. Nothing says Halloween stories and movie magic and that whole creepy, eerie vibe like Sleepy Hollow. I think it fits perfect. The whole fogginess of Sleepy Hollow, sort of the visuals that go along with that, fit perfectly in that area. So I would do a Sleepy Hollow scare zone. Right down production, well, it's Illuminations Avenue. Now, what I would do in there, because I don't know why, but I just keep thinking this fits there for a scare zone, is I would bring back the Trick or Treat scare zone. down through there. You got Little Sam. I don't know, something about with the Minions and the whole Halloween vibe and the horror movie Halloween vibe fits to me right there with the Minions land. So I would bring back the Trick or Treat Scare Zone. It fits beautifully in our overall theme. I love that movie. It also inspired Creature Feature for me when I did it, because I kind of did the out of order but everything blends together thing, and I love Halloween. I think it fits there perfectly. So that would definitely be another one of our scare zones. So we are down to 2. In New York is going to be the Twilight Zone. Now stay with me. Like, I know you're saying, well, they got the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror at Disney. Who knows if we could get that. This is my HHN. This is no holds barred. This is if you could have anything you want. I think the Twilight Zone fits perfect. It's classic. It's scary. It is the reason we have a lot of the horror movies that we have. I mean, Jordan Peele's Us is a straight up pull from Mirror Image in the Twilight Zone. Like, a lot of his stuff is straight pulled from Twilight Zone. Even movies you don't think about, like Steel with Hugh Jackman, 100% a Twilight Zone story that was taken. So Twilight Zone and Rod Serling, I mean, they cornered the market on creepy and golden era Hollywood horror movie, scary, sci-fi. It's all there. It is all there. And I would put that, and then The Fog fits perfectly with that. You could have crazy characters walking through, like in The Eye of the Beholder, you know, those with the crazy pig snouts. And there is so much that you could do with the Twilight Zone, Scare Zone, just random characters, scary characters from episodes. The Fog fits beautifully. It fits beautifully within our theme. So that's the Twilight Zone's area. Now, in the area between sort of to fill in, I guess, like, so that you're never really out of a scare zone. So if you pass like the main San Francisco area and before you turn right to go down to New York. So I would wrap this next scare zone around through the other empty areas, like around in front of the Transformers, all the way up to the backside of where a lot of the food booths go. And it could just be a random loose scare zone. Go over by the lagoon on that side, and that would be a Children of the Corn. Now, whenever I think of Halloween, I think of cornfields and scarecrows and pumpkins, and this would be a creepy scare zone. So you could just have a lot of the corn up on the sides. You could have scare actors randomly in there. It doesn't have to be a crowded scare zone, but just something to sort of connect them all together. You would have your pumpkins and all of that kind of stuff, and scarecrows, that major Halloween vibe. So it's more of a connecting scare zone rather than a like full all-out scare zone, but it would still bring you that sort of Halloween vibe, and it would be unrelenting as you walk through there. It's my map. Like I said, I'm a horror fan. I'm a horror writer. I'm a horror filmmaker, in addition to being a massive theme park fan and historian. I was actually a history teacher, so like all this nostalgia and stuff, the old like slashback horror film style, renting a horror movie in the 80s and bringing it back to watch on Halloween. That is the feel that I am trying to put together in my HHN dream map, and I think I did it. I'm very excited. I would basically live at this HHN for weeks if I could. But tell me what you think. What are some of your dream houses? What do you think of my list? And we'll do some more HHN stuff as it goes, because definitely my vibe. But until next time, this is Chase with American Vintage Adventures saying have a great AVA day, and I'll see you real soon. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It really does help me out. Join the adventure with me, and I'll be able to keep doing this and taking you all these adventures with me. And until next time, see you later.